God literally spoke to me through a podcast episode. So this was about 2 months ago when my husband and I were in a season of a lot of just deep discernment because we were in ambiguity land. We just did not know what was going on. There was so much uncertainty. We talked about this actually in a recent podcast episode, just trying to navigate multiple transitions, question marks, and honestly, it just all led us to really focus on really individually and as a couple, just deepening our faith and our foundation in God and our identities as his children. And so one morning, I just felt compelled to ask God to really speak to us clearly because there were just so many things that we just didn't know. And I knew that we just needed to hear from God. And I just felt this really strong desire to straight up ask God. And I remember writing in my journal, help us to hear you more clearly than ever before. Because again, we need you. We need your guidance, your wisdom, your help. And we just want to produce fruit that's true fruit that comes out of relationship with you, abiding in you, and not artificial fruit that would come out of our own striving and strength. And so later that day, I was cooking lunch, and I actually don't often do this, but I just suddenly had this thing inside of me where I was like, I'm just gonna put on a YouTube video while I'm cooking lunch. And guys, don't judge me for this, but my YouTube watch list has literally over 1,000 videos. And so I was just scrolling through that watch list and picked a random one to watch. And the title wasn't even that really compelling. Honestly, looking back, I don't even know why I clicked on it. Besides, it must have been the Holy Spirit because of what I'm about to share. So the video I clicked on was this podcast episode that actually had come out over a year ago. On this podcast I really love by this really God-centered, God-fearing family called the Beveres. Again, nothing really about the title or thumbnail really made me think, oh, this is for me. But guys, get this. When I clicked play, literally it starts out saying, this question is from Grace and Alex. And I am not exaggerating. I literally jumped and I got goosebumps because that has never happened to me before. And to this day, it hasn't happened since then, where someone literally called me out in a podcast episode about a question that I didn't even remember I submitted. And so I was in shock. I ran to Alex and I was like, oh my goodness, this morning I prayed for God to speak to us in an undeniable way, and listen to the beginning of this episode. And the crazier part is, so we started listening and watching this episode. The message was exactly what we needed to hear, like to the T. The episode also kind of strangely talked about analogies with being pregnant, and at that point I was about 5 months pregnant, was way more relevant to us now versus back then over a year ago when I had asked that question on one of their other podcast episodes. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm literally living this out right now. So it honestly just really felt like God was speaking directly to us through that conversation, and I will never forget that because it just really showed me like God really accounts for the delays between the times when you ask questions to when you'll actually see things, and he literally knows exactly what we need when. In fact, this is going to be a little meta, but I was thinking about doing this video all week as part of this list of scriptures I've just been going through. Today's verse that I was meditating on was James 1:5, and it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. And as I was getting ready to record this, I was like, oh my gosh, that verse is literally one of the big takeaways of this, knowing that God is so approachable in us asking for wisdom, asking for him to speak to us. We have no reason to hold back. I think for some of us, especially those of us who come from maybe Asian backgrounds or environments where it wasn't encouraged to ask questions and speak up, sometimes we carry those mindsets even into our relationship with God, where we're just hesitant to ask him for things, even if it means speaking to us, which obviously he wants to do and he is always doing. But anyway, I just wanted to document this testimony to encourage my future self and also to encourage anyone else who's watching that if you boldly ask God in faith to speak to you, to make things clear to you, get ready for some wild experiences that might kind of freak you out, but in the best way. I would personally love to hear if anyone else has similar experiences of God speaking to you in undeniable ways. Please share them in the comments below, because there is just so much power in testimonies and spurring each other's faith. And if you're encouraged by this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.